Blessed to be a part of your day on this Thanksgiving week. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Our KIDO Kevin Miller cash code word today is pie. That's right, pie. Listen at 3:05 for your chance to win during Sean Hannity's show to hear the next cash code word. We've only got 3 days left for you to win up to $5,000. Hey Millie's Christmas Cash powered by EGT Solar, the Treasure Valley's solar authority. Joining us now is Keith Koffler from Northern Virginia, author of Bannon, Always the Rebel. Mr. Koffler, good morning.
Good morning. I want to know what I can do to participate in the pie contest. I could use that $5,000. I'll be listening and participating myself.
You could just go to.
I'm going for it.
Yes, KIDOTalkRadio.com and register there.
Okay.
Let's talk about Steve Bannon. What do you know about him that we don't?
That's a good question. A few things. First of all, he let's go. One thing that I broke in the book that nobody was aware of is that he was a big drinker for a long time. I guess if you kind of look at his nose right now, you might divine that. But he drank for many years after starting really in high school. He kind of denied that he was an alcoholic to me. He said that, as he put it, I didn't have a drinking problem, but I didn't have a drinking solution either. And basically, he had drunk for until the mid-'90s and realized that it was affecting his work. And he stopped, and the way he stopped, I thought, was very interesting. He's a Catholic. He's from a working class Catholic family in Richmond, Virginia, and basically he used his Catholicism to try to help him stop drinking, even referring to sort of medieval texts that helped him focus on, by St. Thomas of Kempis, St. Ignatius, that helped him focus on what's important, focus on prayer, on Jesus, and staying away from some of the mundane problems and the weaknesses that we have in life. And it was almost like a 12-step program for him that he began one day, really, in 1996 or so. He just stopped cold turkey, and he has used this in the last 20 years ever since to stay away from drinking. It's been and it's been very successful for him. He every day, morning and evening, most mornings and evenings, he goes through a regimen I think it helps him center other aspects of his life as well. But it's prevented him from drinking, and he said that his productivity and thinking just skyrocketed after that, and it's helped him toward the success that he's had. And that's something that, we had about 10 hours of conversation for the book, and we got a very good rapport going, and he kind of started telling me stuff, and that was one of the things that he went into, a very significant chapter of his life based on sort of deeply held religious convictions that he has, which is another thing that I think people don't realize about him.
What was it like to have 10 hours with Steve Bannon? He's a smart guy.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. It was sort of endlessly interesting. He knows so much history. He's been a kind of a bookworm since he was very young. He was also a big sort of brawler and fighter when he was young. It's a strange sort of dichotomy, but he's been reading for many years, and he has a comprehensive understanding of history, right from the Greeks and the Romans all the way up through the founders of the country, and then other history as well, and international relations and so forth. So when you speak to him, you don't have to say too much. You just let him go, and it's just a fascinating thing to listen to, and to try not to be intimidated by him. I consider that I have a certain amount of knowledge, but nothing compared to what he does. And so it's like going to a library and getting just constant access to any kind of interesting information you have. And none of it is sort of superfluous or miscellaneous. It became very tough to go through my recordings of his conversations because there was so much in there that I felt was important. So it's just very, and also the other thing to mention is he's kind of a salty guy. You know, he as intellectual as he is, he can talk to you and just sort of have some fun and be very down to earth, and so it's kind of a good camaraderie that you can get going with him.
Keith Koffler joining us, talking about his new book about Steve Bannon. How did you get Bannon to trust you enough to write about him and to get this access?
Yeah, I got the offer from the publisher, Regnery, conservative publishing house, to do this book. I'm a fairly conservative, I'm myself. Some would say very conservative. And so I think he knew my work. I have a website called WhiteHouseDossier.com, and he knew some of my work from there. And so eventually I reached out to him, and he agreed to chat. It wasn't clear how long we would chat or how much access he would give me. Obviously, it was very important for the book, but he understood that, it was going to be a fair book. I mean, not everything about him is positive in the book. But he knew that I wasn't just coming at this to sort of attack him and caricature him. And just as we started talking, I think we had a, rapport, and then he invited me back for, it was 4 hours and then another 4 hours, both while he was still in the White House, and then a couple more hours after he left the White House. So it was just kind of a lucky chemistry, I think, that got going. And so that's how I got him to talk.
Well, let's go into some of the big deals of Bannon's life that have been, pretty public. The deal that made him the big money, because Bannon is self-made, and people always refer to that as, the Seinfeld moment, the Seinfeld deal.
Yes.
How did Steve Bannon make his money?
Well, that's an interesting question, and there are a lot of parts to it. I mean, he was in the Navy, where of course he didn't make any money, and then or made just a decent wage. But then after the Navy, he went to Harvard Business School, and the first job he landed at a Harvard Business School was at Goldman Sachs. Initially, he was in sort of mergers and acquisitions in New York, and then they sent him out to California to drum up business, to Hollywood, to try to branch out their business. And he was with them for a year or two. And then he went out on his own in sort of a boutique firm, arranging deals out there. I would say that that's how he made most of his money, was just in his own businesses. But certainly he struck gold with Seinfeld. He was arranging the sale of, I forget exactly what it was, but I think Castle Rock Entertainment to Ted Turner. And as part of the sale, he advised the company, the company that he was arranging the sale of owned Seinfeld and a few other shows. And Seinfeld at that point, it had been on for a few seasons, but it was only like number 20 or 30 in the rankings. It had potential, but it wasn't a super hit. And so he advised the company that was selling it to take a percentage instead of just taking money for that aspect of the deal. And Bannon and his business partner got in on the percentage too. And then lo and behold, the very next year, it shot up to number one and stayed there for about 4 years, at number one and number two. And then, of course, there were the residuals, from years of syndication that we're still seeing. And then I think every 6 months or so, Bannon gets a check from his Seinfeld. So I think it's significant, but I don't think that's the centerpiece of his wealth. It's really more the business deals that he himself did as part of his own business ventures.
Bannon, always the rebel. Keith Koffler, the author, with us. What did Bannon think about it, and did it really resonate with him that a year before he became a household name, that big piece in Bloomberg calling him the most dangerous man in Washington, did that come up at all? Because he was pretty much unknown in circles, except inside of Breitbart. It was like a 10-page feature on him.
I remember that. Yeah. Actually, I read that too. I think that the reporter who did that kind of got under the what was going on with him and Breitbart and how he was building this machine that was becoming more and more successful. I mean, what he did was, Andrew Breitbart's publication before Andrew Breitbart tragically died was doing fairly well, but what Bannon did was he took his political sense and combined it with his business sense, and just, and his endless work ethic. I mean, the fellow sleeps about 4 hours a night, and just, zoomed it up into this major publication that was representing a whole group of conservatives, and began to become very influential and very widely read. And I think that's what that article was getting at, was like, hey, here's this thing, a lot of you don't know about this, but this guy's become a very powerful player. And ultimately, he was powerful enough that Trump, wanted to get coverage from him and go on the air on Bannon's own radio show. And that kind of created the in with Trump that led to Bannon's ascension to power.
When we take a look, Keith, at Steve Bannon and Andrew Breitbart, how big of a moment was that for Bannon? Did he find his life's work by helping Andrew Breitbart and eventually running his organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think yes and no. He had already started to do, out in California, so he's out there, everybody's making movies, and he decides that he's going to start doing conservative documentaries. And so there's a story that he told me that, after one of his conservative documentaries was screened somewhere at some film festival, and he said Andrew Breitbart comes up from behind him and squeezes him like a grape and said, you get it. You understand about the culture and about conservatism and what we need to do, and let's save this country together. And so they kind of stayed in touch. I think Bannon was still more doing his own thing, but as Breitbart got his own website started, they collaborated on that. Bannon helped arrange some financing for Breitbart as well and helped him organize it. But I would say he was already on the road, doing his own documentaries, promoting the Tea Party, talking about problems with the Trump administration and so forth. But certainly, the alliance with Breitbart helped accelerate his move towards a strong role in the conservative media.
What was your biggest takeaway from your time with Steve Bannon?
I think my biggest takeaway is that he's kind of caricatured as this guy who just wants to burn everything down. And the book is titled Always a Rebel, but really, in a way it should be titled Rebel with a Cause, because he fights the establishment, but for a reason. And so what I took away from him, especially sort of alluding back to what we were talking about initially, he is very well read, and he has a very specific idea of what he wants to do. He wants to move the Republican Party away from a party that is too closely associated with lobbyists and corporate interests and so forth, and make it a working class party, steal that from the Democrats. He feels the Democrats have become a party of sort of aggrieved special interests. They've lost the support of average Americans and working class Americans. He believes that the Republican Party and issues like limiting trade and limiting immigration can appeal to working class people who may lose their jobs because of those things. And he traces it even back to Alexander Hamilton and others who, had ideas of Abraham Lincoln as well, who passed tariff bills, who had some ideas about protectionism and so forth. And so he has a very well thought out idea of where he wants to go with the culture and the economy. And that was, I think, my strongest takeaway from my conversations with him.
And finally, Keith, what does he think of the president, even though, he had a short run there?
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that when he left, there's these two strong personalities that this would come to no good and they would be at each other's throats. But what has happened is he's really stayed loyal to Trump because he views Trump as the mechanism for getting these ideas as sort of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that another president might not come along with this, that is unafraid of the Republican establishment. And they have kept in touch. They talk frequently. Trump, he finishes his day and everybody goes away, and then he starts making calls to his friends. And one of them is Bannon. And in some weird ways, I think Bannon has more influence now than he did within the White House when he had to have, others who opposed his agenda there and talking to the president and in the room at the same time. So they have maintained a very good relationship so far. And, I think that that's something that is going to continue.
Keith, we'd love to have you back, and very familiar with the good work you do on your website, too, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I enjoyed it, and I'd love to be back. Thanks so much.
Take care. There we have
Take care. Bye-bye.
Keith Koffler joining us. Let's continue on at KIDO Talk Radio. Barb in Sunny Slope, who joins us now. Barb, good to have you with us.
Well, hello there. I was, I'm referring kind of back to a conversation of maybe an hour ago. You were talking about a couple of things that were very interesting to me. One is guns in church. And the man called up, and one person called and said, well, there's a lot of people there. And that is true. You could shoot the wrong person. But if somebody came in shooting, everybody'd be ducking under the pews, so there'd be one left standing. I know that our church doesn't want guns in church, but I feel secure when I know that there are some people smuggling them in. I much prefer that. So that's my statement on that. And the other
so you
one
would
was
prefer guns in church?
I do. I would like to have somebody that knows what they're doing, trained in, concealed carrying them. You bet. I feel more secure about it. Not to say that we're going to be getting out of this world alive anyway, but I just know that when I attended, congregations where I knew people were carrying. I mean, I'm a concealed carry person, but I don't generally carry, and I certainly didn't in church. But when I knew that there were some others that were, I felt better about it, quite frankly. I really did. And the other one was on Mr. Moore, and that I wanted to just speak out on. And your previous caller on that saying, well, why does this keep going? Well, people love this scintillating conversation. No, I hate it. I just am so tired of it. And I am really disturbed by seeing somebody judged in the public without having been convicted. I really am bothered by that. I have personally known of someone who was accused of rape. In fact, the dear woman went so far as to attempt suicide, and that's when it came out. She's in the hospital. Why did you attempt suicide? Well, this person raped me, and I'm just not coping. So I went immediately to that person who I knew and said, this is what I'm hearing. And it happened here and at this date. And thankfully, that young man was with a large group of people at that time, someplace else. Finally, the young lady admitted, no, she just wanted his attention. He wasn't even around her. I'm not saying that every woman that accuses this certainly is a false accusation, but, you add this 40 years and it's not coming out till now. I'm really suspicious of that, and I'm really kind of fed up with the press, being judge and jury here, and he hasn't been convicted. Maybe that's a very sore spot to me in general for other reasons, but I dislike people constantly pulling on this person or any other person without, there being those real charges and it having gone through. Does that make sense to you?
We've lost the perception of innocence.
We have totally lost the perception of innocence. Totally. And it's not just obviously in this case, but certainly this is one that is even harder to deal with because in the other case to which I would refer, there's a lot of data, a lot of videos, a lot of paperwork that will be brought out this time. I'm referring to the Bundy case, of course. But when you're dealing with women that suddenly come up 40 years later and an alleged sexual assault, there is nothing it's just he said, she said. There is nothing that he can use to defend himself.
Barb, great
Nothing.
point. Got to run. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And coming up, we'll hear from the accuser of Judge Roy Moore. We'll also take your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. A lot going on today. And we'll go live to the White House. John Decker will join us to talk about, well, the tax reform bill and what it means for you and your family, and whether or not we're going to pay less in taxes. All that more coming up. First, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. And let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
And joining us now, I guess we could call this the Impact segment, John Decker from the White House, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today?
Well, I don't know if we start talking about LeVar Ball, LaMelo Ball, the president tweeting, or, what's going on with the president and the Oakland Raiders. It's just never a dull moment.
No, the president keeps us following his Twitter account throughout the weekend. So if you just paid attention to whether the president was making some personal appearances and getting in front of the camera, he was not. He let his Twitter account speak for him, and the president going after LeVar Ball, who's the father of one of those three UCLA basketball players who was arrested for shoplifting while they were in China. The president, of course, taking credit for that. The three UCLA basketball players, all freshmen who have since been suspended from the team, thanked the president for his efforts. But LeVar Ball, the father of, again, one of those UCLA basketball players, not thankful or expressing his thanks to the president and making that clear, and the president going after him on Twitter.
You have to wonder, what's the point, but conventional wisdom out the window with the president.
Well, that's true, which drives, I think, many members of Congress on the Republican side crazy because they just want the president to focus on the legislative agenda, not so much on these personal attacks on people that have nothing at all to do with moving the legislative agenda forward. LeVar Ball, the president went after. Marshawn Lynch, the president went after. Those people are not going to move tax reform forward or help in terms of repealing and replacing Obamacare. And, we've already heard from Mitch McConnell, who publicly has said that this has troubled him, and he says that he has expressed that privately to the president as well. But this is the president. He likes to use Twitter, and as you know, Kevin, he always likes to get the last word.
Indeed. It is interesting that he went after Mr. Lynch for his antics with the national anthem. This continues to be a big issue, and you have Jerry Jones going after Roger Goodell and the owners in the NFL, and the NFL reeling. It is amazing how big of an issue culturally this is.
Well, it is a big issue, and I think that it has affected, the president's right, that it has affected viewership in the NFL, not only on television, but, if you see what's happening out in California and the attendance at both the L.A. Rams and L.A. Chargers games, it's not exactly attendance you can brag about. So, look, it's certainly this controversy has affected that, and it may actually, getting away from politics, but it may actually impact the ability of Roger Goodell to extend his contract for another 4 or 5 years.
Indeed, of course, it doesn't really have a lot to do with North Korea tax reform, and perhaps a light week, perhaps highlighted by pardoning a turkey this week, John?
That'll happen tomorrow here at the White House in the Rose Garden. The president continuing this annual tradition that presidents do of pardoning the turkey that's presented to them by the Turkey Growers Association of America. And today, the president and First Lady Melania Trump will welcome, I should say, Kevin, the White House Christmas tree here to the White House. That will take place this afternoon.
What about you, John? Busy week for you?
It will be a busy week because, as you know, Kevin, every time the president tweets, we follow it, and it's going to be not a shortened week for me. What I typically do is for me, personally, Thanksgiving's a great day to get together. For me, it begins 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the time in which I need to be off work. I need to go and spend time with the family, so that's what I will do. But I will be actually here at the White House on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. My wife and her mom are actually going up to New York City to watch the Macy's Day Parade for the very first time. We'll do that in person, and they have some great seats for doing that, and so hopefully the seats will be ones in which I can watch them on television as I'm here at the White House.
John Decker, you live the good life. Thank you.
All right, have a great day, Kevin. Hope to talk to you before Thanksgiving. If I don't, have a happy Thanksgiving. Be well, be safe, and we'll talk real soon.
You too, John. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, our great friend John Decker. Followed up by Mike Miniger, Mike Miniger's Auto Body. Mike Miniger on KIDO Talk Radio.
Jeez. Hey, I wanted to call in on Monday because I know you got the Miller Mafia after me for not showing up last week. And I like my kneecaps. I don't need any cement shoes from any of your guys that work for you, so I wanted to call in.
Well, you know, last spring it was you and Brother Miniger. We had two Minigers there.
Yeah, well, I got rid of him. It's around the holidays. I don't want to buy my family any gifts, so I cause arguments, and then I don't talk to them till January. It saves me a lot of money.
Very brilliant. And by the way, he was almost a show stealer anyway.
That never happens. And that never happens. But I want to tell you, I'm going to write a check to Reverend Bill for $500 today to make up for my wayward ways and get back in your good graces.
Well, thank you, my son. I appreciate your generosity, and you're feeding a lot of families in the Treasure Valley.
Well, I hope so. I don't know if they're going to get my money by Thanksgiving. I mean, I'll put it in there today, but Reverend Bill's going to have to go shopping on his time. So, that's not a good thing, but that's all I can do.
Would you like me to stop by and personally deliver it?
The turkey stop by with the check?
Yeah.
Well, sure. I'd love to have you come by, but you seem awful busy. I don't know if you actually get into big GC, Garden City. I don't know if you get down there much.
Well, I call it drive over country, yes.
Drive over country. I'm going to knock you out when I see you because I just got done at the gym. Feeling healthy.
Well, I will. I could stop by and see you today. I will definitely do that if you trust me with your check for $500 for boys, and I will go right to the rescue mission from your place.
Well, I'll have somebody travel with you. I have minions that'll do that.
Well, it's always good to have minions. Yes.
Just insure my check. Of course, I trust you. I'll be there. I promise.
Well, thank you. It's glad you're showing up for work.
Well, I'm just parked in the driveway at my house now. It's rather smelly.
This is what I love about you. You give us the in-depth team coverage of what you're really doing and what you've done in the past.
I would have never made it on any public forum. I could have never run for office. I don't think I'd have pulled a Harvey Weinstein or anything like that, but I don't know. I'm an acquired taste, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing that you're no Harvey Weinstein.
I'm more like Sylvester Stallone, I guess. I got to go before we both get in trouble. I'll see you sometime today.
Thank you, Mike.
See you, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Mike Miniger. Ronnie from Caldwell with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Not much, sir, and you?
I was going to say that Miniger's right. If he doesn't do those things and give the money, then we will come get him. And all I'm waiting for is just a message from you.
I don't know. I don't know if you could take Mike Miniger.
Dude, I have to take Mike Miniger with one hand behind my back. My hands are registered as legal weapons, man. Come on.
Well, that was back in the 90s.
And, dude, I still got all the moves that I had back then now, and I've got that kind of, when you hit over 40, you get that super strength? I've got that right now.
Is that what they call it?
I think so, dude. It's like, I don't have any kids that I know of, but and they call it dad strength, dude.
But you're not a dad that you know of.
Not that I know of, but I've heard rumors, but because I've traveled before, but I just think that when I hit like 40, I just got this super kind of strength that came from somewhere, and I don't know where it came from. But my point being, dude, is Miniger's right. The militia's strong. We've grown in size and we've grown in strength, and we've gotten smarter. So if you want me to go over to his body shop and do the thing I do, I will do that for you.
Well, you'd probably be taking on the whole shop.
Dude, have you ever watched like a Chuck Norris film or anything like that?
Sure.
Okay, I can do that stuff. I still can. I can do the swing kicks. I can do all the karate. I can do it all. And I don't even need to bring weapons. And, like, you know, when people say, do you bring a gun to church? And it's like, dude, I've got 2 guns strapped to me at all times.
So you wouldn't bring the nunchucks. You'd use a spinning back fist.
I think so. I would. You know, another move I like to use? I like to use the elbow to the throat.
Now, how old are you?
I told you, dude, we're almost the same age. One of the reasons I don't want to give out my exact age, dude, is because I like to keep it a mystery with the ladies.
Why?
Because, dude, I'm on the market.
What is being a certain age have anything to do with?
You know, it's like in Hollywood sometimes when if you paid attention sometimes to things, you can see like someone gets an award and they're like, she's, you know, got this award for this or that. And then they say in the magazines that she's only like 55 and you're like, she was like 55 10 years ago. There's a lot of lying going out there in the Hollywood stuff, dude. You got to learn how to protect yourself this way, Millie. Like if I were you, I'd start saying things like, yeah, I just turned 40. And then people will think you're younger than you are.
Well, Caldwell, Hollywood, I see where, you know, they have a lot in common.
They do. You know, there's rumors that Hollywood was going to move a lot of their production out there because we've got so many things going on over there, and it's cheaper.
Wow. And finally, Terry from State College, Pennsylvania has this to say to you. Ronnie uses the triple lip lock on cheap bottles of beer.
Triple lip lock? I've never even used that move. What is he talking about?
I have no idea.
You know, I don't know if I like that guy either. If you want, I can make a double stop, but you'll have to pitch in for gas money.
With the Camaro, huh?
Uh-huh. And it's getting to the point where I'm going to put her away for the season, you know. Once the roads start getting slick, when you're putting down 600 horsepower to the wheel, dude, these roads, man, they got to be dry or, you know, she's going to go sideways on me. Speaking of that, do you remember when I did the burnout last year at the turkey thing?
Tea Party Bob joins us now from the Gem State Patriot on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Miller. You're really rolling this morning.
You can call it that.
All kinds of great topics. I just have to touch on a couple of them here. First is as far as the political races go in Idaho, we have 3 candidates running for governor, Hallquist, Labrador, and Little. In our minds, only one of these have proven themselves to be conservative through history, and that's Labrador. Little's part of the establishment. He has been since he was appointed to the legislature. And Hallquist is a guy who tells us he's conservative, but does not show it by his actions, using public money for urban renewal, and his associations with Democratic Party leaders and supporters like Mayor Beater and Belukoff and Kustra. Not to mention his derogatory comments about Donald Trump caught on video.
Well, you could say that about Donald Trump as well.
Absolutely. You know, the race for governor is fast becoming, lieutenant governor is fast becoming a lottery with so many candidates running. And the first CD has only 2 real candidates in our mind. They are Russ Bolcher and David Leroy. The rest have no business being in the race and don't have the credentials morally, ethically, or historically to even run for the office. We believe that many of them are being financed by establishment political PACs like the Otter PAC that wants to keep.
Well, what do you make of the Otter? What do you make of the Otter PAC? It's looming out there.
He's going to use it, and I'm sure he's going to use it to go after the people he does not want in office. If you're a real true conservative, you're going to probably find a candidate that's going to run against you, and more than likely they're going to be financed by people like the Otter PAC. You know, we're of the opinion that people of Idaho have become more in tune with who the candidates are, and will not necessarily be weighed by the amount of money somebody spends, but more by the issues and the candidate's credibility. And I wanted to make a quick note about the church's security team. You know, the idea whose time has come is to have security teams in churches. We live in very dangerous times, and I know for a fact that there are churches in the Treasure Valley that have formed details of armed church members whose responsibility it is to protect the congregation from potential terrorist activity. And these teams actually train for these positions for classes in the use of firearms. You know, we live in dangerous times, and it requires people to change their actions by doing things that were unheard of 20 years ago. And on a more controversy, how many of us would be able to survive a background check that goes back 40 years? I think your friend from Birmingham said that the accusations are probably exaggerated. And why were they brought out now? A very good point. It still comes down to innocent until proven guilty. And if we want to look at a problem of moral values and ethics, we have to look no further than our own legislature and the scandals that took place there in the past year with 2 state senators. You know, who should have known better and were never brought up on ethics charges? So, you know, this is a problem all around the country. It doesn't just sit in Birmingham or in Washington or New York. It's all over the place. And again, I think it all comes back to the fact that people are spending less time in churches and have less in terms of religious values and moral values. And it's a shame to see that happen, but that's the crazy world we live in. Thank you again for everything you did for the rescue mission. Fantastic week. And I certainly hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope that everybody over at the rescue mission enjoys their meal.
Well, I enjoyed the soup that you made for me. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anytime we can help you out, you know, we're trying to keep you on that diet.
Yes.
You have yourself a wonderful day, Mr. Miller. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Take care, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You know, we had such a great week last week getting ready for Thanksgiving. I have to write myself a note to go see Mike Miniger today. But just amazing when you think of all the generosity, all the giving that happened. I want to thank everybody for their generous donations. And when we take a look at just the need, and when we take a look at the cold, it is, something that is going to take days and weeks and months to stop. But we so appreciate everybody who has given and continues to give to the Boise Rescue Mission. We go back to the phones, and we go to Liberal Steve joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Buenos dias, Miller in Idaho. This is the week, Miller, that we reflect on the years and the years past, and when we reflect on what we're thankful for. And I just want to say I'm thankful we live in the USA. You stay fired up. Great show today. And I'm also thankful for all your great callers. Ronnie, Tea Party Bob, Timid Terry, Tommy. What'd you call Tommy again? Not Tom, not the governor running, but Tom with the John Birch.
Oh, Frisky Tom.
Frisky Tom. Yeah, Linda, Cindy, and all your callers out there. I'm thankful for them. You know, great country, lots of opinions, but always remember, Mr. Miller, mine is the only one that matters. You stay fired up. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Well, we look forward to that. We have a lot of people that, are critical of you. What would you like to say to your critics?
I love you. A man cannot decide where he goes in life without critics. And one thing I've learned in life is I've never seen a monument raised and put up for a critic. So to the critics out there, you'll never have a monument. Fire up, Miller.
All right. Thank you, sir. Traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. I do want to thank again everybody who contributed and made a difference. And, you can still donate online anytime at BoiseRM.org. I want to thank everybody with the Boise Rescue Mission for a great week. Glenn Beck and Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity coming up next. Do appreciate being back with you, and it really makes all of us appreciate what we have when we focus on others and make our Treasure Valley the very best that we can be. I want to thank Ray Amaya for rolling with the ship, making it sound as best as it can. Outstanding work, as always, our crew at the scene, the folks at the Garrity Walmart, Team Mazda Subaru, Camping World Boise, and again, you for making a difference. That's the great thing about local radio is, again, perhaps we can't focus in on what happens in Washington, but we can make our world, our area, our Treasure Valley the best it can be. Fox News is next. Stay here. Stay informed. Hope you have a great day. May God bless you and your family, and keep the faith.